Hello, hello, how are you getting on? How are you going? This is Sean here for Trek Culture, and I am so happy to be back again for our next episode of Ups and Downs for Star Trek Picard. Before we get into that, thanks so much everyone who likes, who shares, who subscribes. You have helped this channel in like since last week. It's already out of date. Poor Chris keeps making graphics for how many subscribers we have, and they keep being out of date by the time they go up. So I'm going to say we have about 185,000 subscribers. This might already be out of date. We're aiming for 200,000 by summer. You're awesome. Everyone who subscribes, thank you so much because you're helping this channel grow, all right? So you're a hero, you're a bleeding legend, and we'll all go for a pint one day. Whatever happens to be in your glass, it'll be deadly. You know how this is going to work at this stage. We're going to go through this episode, give everything that we liked an up, and everything that we didn't like a down. Without further ado, let's get to it. Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 2, Penance. We are kicking straight off with the ups this week. John de Lancie. I'm sorry, just for everyone in the back, John de Lancie. Not only is he brilliant anyway in this episode, which I'll get to in a second, but just, he's always brilliant. And if you love John de Lancie, you're gonna really love this. And if you love good acting, you're gonna really love this. Because this is a different Q, and yet it's an immediately recognizable Q. It's still the Q we know and hate love from Next Generation and Voyager, and yet something's not quite right. Now, we've known from interviews and stuff that Q was going to be a little bit different, and, you know, maybe they were just going to lean into the fact that, well, look, he obviously looks a bit different. I mean, I loved the way they aged him up last week. I just thought that was handled really, really well. But something is not right in Q's world. Captain Picard picks up on it straight away and gets a smack across the face for his troubles. What's going on? We've never seen Q act quite like this before. He seems insistent, urgent, full of anger, full of, you know, directed rage at Jean-Luc. This opening scene, it's very unsettling because Q has always been something like a trickster, more of a Loki than something truly malevolent. Probably the darkest he's been in Star Trek up to now has probably been Encounter at Farpoint, maybe a little bit of Hidden Q as well. But here, there's something definitely wrong. On top of the mystery of the whole episode, we have what's happening or happened to Q. Excellent, excellent, excellent opening scene this week. So many Easter eggs, which we'll get to in Citation Observation, so make sure you stick around for that. But their entire conversation, you have Jean-Luc trying his very best to keep up, even though he's clearly disoriented. And you have then Q, who seems to be reveling in showing Jean-Luc that he has done something, or something has happened for which he bears responsibility. Penance for what? You know for what. It is the beginnings of a fantastic mystery. This is how you start to reveal a mystery. You keep asking questions and you leave us ravenous for more. I cannot put enough praise on this opening scene. Well done, everyone involved here. Yeah, I have a down. One little down. You gave us the Flash last week. Why'd you take it away this week? What's wrong? It's broken! Now, as Picard desperately tries to kind of catch up with the history of everything up to this point, he watches what seems to be propaganda messages given out by, well, himself in this timeline. And I actually really like that because it actually reminded me of Starship Troopers. You know, that want to know more? It's the use of propaganda, this jingoistic, you know, a raise to militarism. Phrases like, you know, human might and human power, extreme xenophobia, which if you casually look outside the window at this point, you will see echoes of. And so it's quite chilling, but it's managed in such a way where it's not shoved down your throat. This is probably the Next Generation, if you like, their first take on a mirror universe episode, even though there's a revelation coming later on, of course. It was done in a way that's sometimes less hammy than some of the other mirror universe ones. Please don't get me wrong, I love every single mirror universe episode. Even going into Discovery as well. I was going to say DS9, I love the DS9 ones. This one, it's played far more straight than a lot of the other ones are. and it's really, really clever. So I love the propaganda because how do you learn history? Well, you watch what's on the news. What is news? News is propaganda. Propaganda itself is not a bad word. It's what it's used for. Anyway, very well done. Now, we move away from Picard and we get to Annika Hansen. Because 7 of 9 doesn't exist in this timeline. There is Annika Hansen, who was never assimilated by the Borg. She does a very clever thing where, how many times did 7 wake up in either a dream state or a fugue or an alternate reality? She runs through her senses. I thought this was an up. Yes, that is absolutely consistent with the character. She does, pain receptors, yes, smell receptors, yes. It's actually really, really clever. It's like, oh yeah, she would be smart enough and level-headed enough to get this. And so I absolutely buy Annika's quick assimilation, pun intended, to this timeline. She's able to see what's going on around her, accept the fact that it's real, even if she's incredibly confused as to what's happening. She becomes a little bit like our guide in a way, because she's able to ask the exposition questions without it being a little bit kind of wallop over the head exposition, which can be very frustrating even in these dropped into these scenario situations. I seem like I'm just lumping so much praise on this episode, but I thought it was really, really well handled. Which brings us to Jurati. Down. At this point, I actually feel like they're doing a disservice to the character because Jurati has become something of the comic relief. And in this scene where Jurati is trying, or just doesn't understand that something has happened, something's going on, I feel like Jurati was low-hanging fruit here. They could have done this a little bit more with Elnor. There's shades of it, but they could have done it there. Everyone else seems much quicker on the update. And Jurati, who's one of the most intelligent characters, or certainly is portrayed as one of the most intelligent characters in Star Trek, how is she so slow? She's not picking up on the signs that are being given her by Annika. And again, I know I come down really, really hard on Jurati, and spoiler, I have ups for Jurati later on, so bear with me here. But I do feel like, just low-hanging fruit here. I thought, come on, let's give Agnes a bit of a break here. So that, for me, was a little bit of a down, I have to say. Raffi and Elnor. I just love their double team, but particularly in this episode, we get the introduction of Elnor doesn't know what's going on. He's being hunted down to be eradicated. He's obviously a Romulan refugee hiding out on Earth. By the looks of things, best of luck, Elnor. Thankfully, Raffi arrives just in time to save him from being hunted down and killed. She has enough kind of wherewithal to go, okay, yep, I'm taking this prisoner. I'll take him alive. Okie dokie. Yep, we're just gonna keep saying yes for the next while. And it works because I love how they interact with each other. And there's a couple of funny lines as well, kind of dotted throughout the episode. Well, that's good news. That is not good news, Raffi. Yes, I know that, Elnor. Things like that. I love how they still manage to, even in the most serious of situations, drop in his absolute candor. And the way the two of them work together really, really works strongly and well in this episode. There was the introduction of a new character who I would love to see again in some way, and it's Spot 73, played by Patton Oswalt. Yeah, that was just brilliant. I love Patton Oswalt's voice anyway. Please just voice my computers in my life, Patton. But also Spot 73. I mean, we all know what that's a reference to. It's so good. Sorry, I like these things. When they arrive in Jurati's lab and they're introduced to the Queen, Picard, they contact Rios. Rios is off on La Sirena. He is engaging the Vulcans. He's recalled to Earth by President Hansen. They're all, they're about to beam up, and then they're unable to beam through the beaming shield. And 7, Annika, then goes, oh yeah, of course we can't beam through the shield. Down. She says this was in my briefing, which she read this morning. It doesn't seem like they just switched that beaming shield on. Oh, that was a bit convenient for the plot, wasn't it? To kind of put a ticking clock over this scene. I enjoyed the ticking clock, but I thought you didn't need that revelation. So that, for me, that was actually a little bit of a, come on, would you really have forgotten that? Having just mentioned the Queen, up. Now my up is Jurati and the Queen overall, but let me first start with Annie Wershing as the Borg Queen. It is brilliant. I think I was not alone in approaching this episode with, well look, I have Alice Krieg in my head, and I have Susanna Thompson in my head. So this was always going to be a new take on the Queen. I'm very open-minded, I'm looking forward to it, but you're kind of like, am I going to see a bit of an imitation? Am I going to see, something vastly different altogether? And what Annie Wershing manages to do is create something that is both iconic straight away and evocative of the past, while definitely being new, even though she's called a more typical queen, which I thought was a great descriptor. That smile that she has throughout the latter half of the episode, I am so deeply uncomfortable by the fact that anything that's making a Borg Queen smile like that probably is not good for anyone else in the universe. We get some typical kind of Annika and Queen confrontation. We get Picard and Queen confrontation, but actually, and about 10 minutes ago as I alluded to, that this was an up for Jurati and the Queen, there's something coming here. There's a lot of looks, a lot of, a little bit of delays, a little bit of panning away. Something is coming between these two. Now, in a way, I guess we know because in some trailers we see that Jurati's a little bit more athletic than she used to be. So, hey, there's nothing saying she hasn't been to the gym between seasons. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that we see a lot of kind of knowing glares, or at least intense glares between the Queen and Jurati, I think something is coming here. The way they interact with each other, we are going to see either her new Locutus, or there's going to be a very interesting relationship between these two. I'm incredibly intrigued. Another triumph of this episode is that I need to see where this relationship goes. And now actually here I am piling the praise on Jurati. Her cover story is brilliant. Annika 7 shots. I laughed out loud. Oh, I really enjoyed that. And she just reams it off and reams it off and reams it off. And it does an awful lot to make up for the earlier down, don't get me wrong, but it still stands. But it's very, very good. And I thought Alison Pill just nailed that scene. And my one final thing for the ups and downs for this episode is down for the cliffhanger. We know they're going to be grand. We know this. Like, why would you have this as your cliffhanger? Like, not only do we know they're going to be grand, we've seen the trailer. They're going to be fine. You know what I mean? So that was just an interesting choice for a cliffhanger. Now, before I get to citation observations, I have something that is going to exist right here. If this doesn't go anywhere, this is going in the downs. If this does go somewhere, this is going in the ups. Shall I call General Sisko? So, is this teasing the long awaited return? Damn you, Star Trek Picard. Damn. And we're off. So, we have a name drop of yesterday's Enterprise in the very first scene. Joe, I actually hummed and hawed about this one because yesterday's Enterprise is the name of the episode. Technically, Picard wouldn't know that, but I mean, Q being a trickster god has potentially watched Star Trek The Next Generation, so I'm fine with this. And that's my headcanon. We have Q speaking about through a mirror darkly. That itself, I believe, is a biblical quote, but also, of course, in a mirror darkly, the name of the episodes from Enterprise, it is, of course, hey, mirror universe, kind of. We then have Cardassian armor, a Klingon disruptor. We have Federation phaser rifles. We have a Bajoran phaser rifle. We have a Bajoran phaser. We have a Borg skull. We have the Qowat Malot weaponry from last season. We have mounted a Ferengi skull with the Grand Nagus scepter right in front of it. We have name-dropped Gul Dukat's skull, name-dropped General Martok's skull. We have name-dropped Sarek's skull with a reference to his wife and son. Now, we have a Klingon sash on a mannequin right behind Picard. The, of course, aforementioned reference to General Sisko. We have the Vulcan shuttle that we saw in Leith in Discovery. Then we have name dropped when the explosions are going off in Okinawa. We have Cardassia, we have Andor, we have Kronos, we have Vulcan, and we have Romulus. Now we have, of course, Spot 73. Now we have one that's a little bit of a deep dive. The Queen's designation is prisoner M510. The M5 computer was the sentient computer installed on the Enterprise by Dr. Richard Daystrom in the original series episode, The Ultimate Computer. Now we have a call out of tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01. We have interplexing inhibitors. Of course, the Borg were trying to build an interplexing beacon in Star Trek First Contact. We have, of course, a name drop of Locutus. We have the call out, and finally the confirmation of, because this would have aged badly in all of my trader breakdowns if it hadn't, Slingshot Around the Sun. Kirk's Enterprise did it a couple of times, as of course did the HMS Bounty in Star Trek IV, the one with the whales, and they referenced the fact that Spock was able to calculate their coordinates. We've one last one that is, it's like a future Easter egg, because just outside the space of what was Starfleet Academy is that holographic monument to Adam Soong, the character that Brent Spiner will be playing in this season. There's a slight voiceover that talks about how, important it is for humans to be in control, voiced over by Brent Spiner himself, so a little cameo there in this episode. And yeah, so we know from the trailers that Q is going to go back and interact with this Adam Soong in the past. So yeah, it's like a future Easter egg. Now, that is everything I have for this episode, and even then, this was a packed episode. This was a strong episode 2. Really looking forward to episode 3. If you reckon I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As I say, cannot say thank you enough for all of the support that you are showing this channel. Remember, you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick over on Twitter as well. Remember, please look after yourself, look after your friends and family. Every day we get more and more potentially overwhelming news. So take a second, look after yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and of course, to those who are in the most affected areas right now, remember, I wish you Jeti Dovo I Prosvitati, live long and prosper. We stand with Ukraine. Everyone, let's just be safe and let's hope for a better tomorrow. Thank you so much.